All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We've just seen the second installment of Leigh and Josh Warrington. A very different fight to what we were all expecting. I think coming into this fight, we all thought somebody was getting knocked out. We all thought this fight was going to be a war that goes about 6, 7, 8 rounds in length, but it wasn't what we saw today. We saw a very good showing by Leigh, not as good a showing by Josh Warrington. I think very indicative of his age and his just time in the ring. I think Josh Warrington, out of the two of them post-show, if I got a retirement tone from either of them, it was Josh Warrington. Neither of them wanted to make a declaration of whether they were going to retire, but I think by Josh Warrington's tone, there's a lot of question marks whether he's going to return. Leigh, though, on the other hand, I think after tonight's performance, he is a boxer at the end of the day. They just can't give it up most of the time. So I fully expect Leigh to be in the ring once again. And tonight's performance was just textbook. It was one of the best Leigh performances we've seen in quite a few years. He wins by unanimous decision, 119, 109, 119, 110, 117, 111. A little bit all over the place there, but if I was to pick one that's probably the closest, 119, 109 would probably have been mine. It was just, yeah, one-way traffic all night long. Leigh, I mean, if you want a textbook showing of how to use your size and reach to win a fight, that's what it is. All right, Leigh, very different to what his first fight was. He could have very easily come in there and just traded with him all night long, but Leigh fought the smart fight, used his age, used his experience and movement around the ring, keeping him at distance, using the jab to the body continuously, and then coupling it up with shots to the head, hooks and uppercuts he tried to land. Not many got through, but a few good ones did. Nothing, though, that really hurt Josh Warrington, but enough to keep control of the fight, and that's all he needed to do at the end of the day. He didn't need to risk anything, didn't need to give Josh Warrington anything to eat off, and just keep him at distance, keep moving around the ring, and win the fight. And every time Josh Warrington tried to get in close, he wrapped him up and held him away from being able to land combinations on the inside. The best sort of work from Josh Warrington that we saw tonight was a few counter combinations. A few times early in the fight, Josh Warrington was trying to, spring into action and land combinations from a distance to close the distance, but he was just getting wrapped up. His little bits of success came from countering when Leigh tried to attack, jump into action, close the distance, land a combination, and he got a few good shots in there. There was a big sort of overhand right hook that landed in about round 4 or round 5, and that was probably his shot of the night, and it almost just summed up everything that he did tonight, because that punch is the only thing I remember Josh Warrington doing. Leigh landed some good combinations, a few good uppercuts, a few good hooks, but it was just that continuous work with the jab to the body, to the head, keeping him at distance, being able to hit through that high guard, and realistically, Josh Warrington had absolutely no answers. And like I said, I think it's indicative of his age. I don't think we saw anywhere near a good Josh Warrington tonight. And especially in this division, Josh Warrington is so undersized. So if you're not 100% on your game, if you're not ready to bite down on your gum shield and go through hell to win that fight, you're never going to do it. And I think that's what we saw from Josh Warrington. I think we saw somebody that is very much at the end of his career. Leigh, a very good performance. But I think you can also say from his performance tonight, it was very, very cautious and a little bit worrying of what was coming back. And that could also be indicative of, number one, the first fight, but also him getting up there in age. Neither of these guys wanted to go to war, which probably showcase what's going to be in the future. Like I said, I think Josh Warrington retires after this fight. I think this is the last time we see him. Leigh probably has 1 or 2 in him until he probably loses again, and that's it for Leigh. But tonight was a very, very good display from Leigh. I don't want to understate that at all. I think if you want to control a boxing fight, if you want to use your size and experience, this was an absolute masterclass by Leigh. And at 37 years of age, I think we all expected him to go in there, trade with Josh Warrington, try and land the big punches that we know he's got. But tonight he says, no, we're going to stay composed. We're not going to risk taking any damage, because Josh Warrington, if he lands one of those big shots, Leigh would be the one on the ground as well. So Leigh knew the task at hand, knew if I can keep him at distance, keep him at range, use my boxing acumen, I'll win this fight by a landslide. And that's what he did tonight. It was an excellent performance. The other results that we saw, TMA Ayton defeated Catherine Ramos 77-75. I think with 5 fights in at her age, this was a great fight to have. I think after the few early knockouts that she's had in her first 4 fights, it's quite easy to look ahead and start underestimating what your opponents are going to be, especially at the top of the bill. She's already calling for belt fights and so on and so forth, saying she wants Sugar Neeks very, very soon. And I think tonight was a good display of you're just not ready yet. All right? This was a good test. Fight over 8 rounds, have a tough opponent against you, get that experience, because what she takes out of this fight is going to be so much better than what she gets out of knocking people out in the first and second round. She's going to learn so much more about herself, what she does well, what she needs to improve on, building up to these bigger fights. And I think this is an important fight for her to have. It's not the result she would have wanted. She would have wanted to go in there and put on another masterful display, but she had a live dog in there tonight in Catherine Ramos, and she brought the action, won a few good rounds, landed some good shots, and I think Team Aiden, like I said, will take a big learning curve out of this and keep growing from it. I think this is probably the best fight for her up until this point in her career. Yeah, it's nice at the start of your career to get, the quick knockouts, highlight reels, get people talking about you, but this is where you learn, this is where you grow, and this is where you become a great fighter. It's in these tough fights, it's when you are learning, because you don't learn anything knocking somebody out in 1 minute, 2 minute, dominating the fight, really having nothing coming back at you. This is where you learn it. So I thought it was a good performance by Team Aiden, a tough performance, and a growing experience. All right, Sandy Ryan versus Carla Zamora. Sandy Ryan got very close to losing this fight. Carla Zamora, I mean, what a hell of a performance. A huge underdog. I think she was underestimated by everybody, including Sandy Ryan, and I think that was a reflection of Sandy Ryan's performance tonight. I think she came in underestimating her opponent, saw that, I've got the height advantage. Zamora's lost 10 fights. This will be an easy night. I'll become the new world champion. And unfortunately, when you've got a live dog in there like Carla Zamora, somebody that's going to bring the action for 10 rounds straight, just on the front foot, pressure, 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 throwing punches continuously. Yeah, lots of them weren't filled with power, but the activity is what counts, and that's what the judges see, and that's what Zamora did tonight. And you know what? She'll probably feel a little bit hard done by the decision, 95-95, 97-93 times 2. She was well worth a draw, if not a win. That's how close this fight was. But I think Sandy Ryan won enough rounds at the start, won enough rounds at the end, probably missed out in the middle section. That's where Carla Zamora probably won her rounds. But yeah, I think Sandy Ryan's biggest issue tonight was underestimating her opponent. We know how good Sandy Ryan is, all right? I just wish we could see her use her range, use her boxing acumen a little bit more, use her boxing pedigree rather than having to go in there and dig every single time, which I think she tried to do against Carla Zamora. I think she would have had a lot better night if she stayed at distance, used that jab to keep Carla Zamora at distance, and won the fight via that way. But we know that she likes to get in there. And you know what? The fight was very entertaining. It was one of the best fights of the night. So Sandy Ryan becomes a new WBC super lightweight champion. Dave Allen. I love this guy, eh? No one dislikes Dave Allen. And tonight, goes in there, knows how much better he is than his opponent, Kareem Berajam. Wins by TKO within 59 seconds, I think it was the TKO. You saw the towel fly in. He drops him twice in that distance. And from the bell, Dave Allen just runs to the opposition corner, starts throwing bombs, drops him, waits for him to get up, follows him again, drops him a second time. The towel comes in, the referee stops in, and that's the end of the fight. And Dave Allen, I mean, you've just got to love the guy. And you just wish he backed himself a little bit more and he put in a little bit more work in the training camp and really got himself in the best condition that he possibly can, because we all can see the talent. I think this guy is no better than a European level heavyweight. But I also think that the performances that we've seen haven't been indicative of how good he is. I think he underplays himself. I think he undersells himself. I think if he puts in the hard yards, he will become a British and a European champion. And hell, you can put in a big fight against your Anthony Joshua. You probably lose, but you have a big night out. You were the European champion and everything else. And I think Dave Allen just undersells himself a little bit and needs to just know how good he is, because look, he's not going to be a world beater, but he's also not sort of the level that we've seen him in recent years. He is above that. And I say that out of complete respect out of Dave Allen. I think he undersells himself and he can become a European and a British champion. And I want to see that for Dave Allen before his retirement. Either way, he sells tickets. People like to go and watch him. I thought his post-fight interview was very funny, saying he's very committed to Eddie Hearn. We all know who he's talking about there, Mr. Conor Benn. So yeah, good night for Dave Allen. And I like to see him in the ring because he brings something to every event. Ishmael Davis versus Bilal Fawaz. That was a poor end for Ishmael Davis. I mean, by about 5 or 6 rounds in, you couldn't have given Bilal Fawaz a round. And by the end of the fight, Bilal Fawaz walks away with a decision, 114-114, 115-113, 115-114, a majority decision victory for Bilal Fawaz. And yeah, Ishmael Davis, I mean, he had control of the entirety of the start of the fight. He was able to keep Bilal at distance, land his good shots, nothing big, but enough to keep Bilal off him, keep winning every single round, and you thought he's just going to stroll to victory. And then all of a sudden, Bilal springs into action a bit like he did in his last fight and takes every round from about round 7 onwards. You couldn't have given Ishmael Davis one of those rounds. Ishmael Davis didn't look hurt, but he looked tired and unconditioned, and Bilal Fawaz just ran away with it by an absolute mile. So a very good win for him, a good display after not a great start. Going forward, I think after you look at this fight and his last fight, if you're saying to Bilal one thing, it's start quicker. You've got to start quicker because you can't rely on every time winning the last 6 rounds, because you might have a close one in the end there, and you might just lose the fight because you gave away the first opening few rounds. You got to try and clean up that start, and if you can do that, you've got the gas tank, you've got the ability. All right, people enjoy watching Bilal Fawaz. He's not my type of character, but I can see the appeal for him. He's got a great story. Well, not a great story, but I mean in terms of an arc of where he's come from to now, it is a great story of how he's become where he is now. We heard him talk, we heard Eddie Hearn talk about his journey. It is a great journey to where he is now. And Bilal Fawaz, now a British and a Commonwealth champion, he's going to move for higher honours. He's got a big deal with Matchroom Boxing. Big things are in the future for Bilal Fawaz. I just would like to see him clean up the start of his fights, and I think he can go a lot further. All right, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Last bit of news, actually. Richardson Hitchens is out of his fight tonight against Oscar Duarte. Richardson Hitchens claiming that he is ill, pulls out of the fight. I believe that is a weight thing. I think he struggled with the weight cut. He's talked multiple times about stepping up to welterweight. I think this is the last time we see him at super lightweight. We're not even going to see him, but this is the last time we see him arranged for a fight at super lightweight. I think next stop is welterweight. Unfortunately for Oscar Duarte, he doesn't get to be shown on this amazing card, which is unfortunate for him. And I believe Andy Hirioka and Gary Antoine Russell is the new co-main, and Amari Jones's fight is put on the pay-per-view instead of an early prelim. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'm out of here, guys. See yous.